So it's my great honor to introduce the next facilitator of the second panel, Charlie Babb. And Charlie is the current vice president of the BMA Phoenix chapter, but I know him mostly through the work that he and his firm, Creative Engine, have done for the Tech Council in helping us to rebrand our organization. If you look in the lower left side of the screen, you'll see our new logo there, and that was as a result of the good work of Creative Engine. So without further ado, to introduce our next panel and facilitate Charlie Babb.
Thank you, Steve. And I'm honored that you're honored that we're honored. Thank you very much. So what do you think of the last panel? Pretty good, huh? Round of applause. Makes it a tough act to follow, but actually what's kind of neat about it is there's a lot of good questions that I think will come out of it because it kind of segues into the marketing automation panel. And with me today I have two of the leading companies, and it's really neat too because they're focused on different areas of the market. You have the enterprise side with Aquila. See, I knew I'd screw that up when I got up here. And Infusionsoft. So what I'd like to do first is ask each one of our panelists to introduce themselves, say a little bit about their company and what their mission is for their business, and then we're going to get into a couple of questions. Then I'm going to open up for the audience to ask questions. Now, we do have a microphone running around here, and if you wouldn't mind waiting just a couple of seconds before the microphone gets to you, because we're recording this, and we'd like to have those questions on the mic if you don't mind. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is introduce Brian Carden, the Chief Marketing Officer of Aquila.
Thank you. It's Eloqua.
Yeah, Eloqua. Thank you.
It's great to be here. I'm from Boston, and we had an earthquake on Monday, and there's a huge hurricane, and so 112 degrees is pretty cool for me, so really happy to have it here. Although I was explaining last night, there was a breeze coming last night. It felt like a convection oven, so my ears are a little crispy as I'm here, but it's wonderful to be in Phoenix. So just a little bit about my path to being here. So I've been a B2B marketer for a long time. I was Chief Marketing Officer of a large B2B publishing company, the largest in the world, Reed Elsevier, Connors. We got to work with the great Al Mag from Avnet, who's in the back of the room, who's president of BMA. And I was actually there for more than 2 years. I think we heard the statistic of a CMO lasts about 2 years. And so I was there for about 5 years, which was great. And then from there, I went to Forrester Research, where I had the great chance to work with Laura Ramos of Forrester. I was Chief Marketing Officer and Head of Strategy at Forrester Research, B2B. And then 3 years ago, I joined Eloqua. So I'm 3 years into it, which I'm feeling pretty good, beating the Spencer Stewart statistics. And so what Eloqua does is we do software for marketers. And there are two really issues that we solve. The key issue is about the quality of the leads. And so what we do is we nurture leads and we score leads, and we only pass the best leads to the sales team. And it really allows something very special to happen. And that is the sales team is not inundated with thousands of crappy leads. They are given only the highest quality leads. And what happens is, number one, you have higher win rates. So the sales team's feeling great. They win more deals because the quality is higher. Number two, very often the deal cycle is shorter. Because they're higher quality leads, it doesn't take 180 days to close, they close a lot quicker. And so it's kind of like velocity. You think about like a retailer like Walmart, you want to have a lot of turns. Well, that's what a salesperson wants. They don't want to be stuck with a lead that's taken 2 years to close. So it turns a lot faster. And the third, and this is great for management, you can push more quota on a salesperson because of the first two. If they're winning more and they're closing faster, you can give them a whole lot more quota, and that's great. But I think the real value that we deliver, that I think the last panel talked about, was the science of marketing. So it's all about the measurability. And it's not about the color of the website, and it's not about what font you chose, and it's not about the opens and the click-throughs. It's about how is marketing demonstrating how they're closing business, and it's about revenue. And so if you're a marketer who can demonstrate how your marketing activities are tied to closed business, you're going to have a job for a lifetime. It's very rare. Very few marketers can do that, but that's what we're going to talk about today.
Thank you. Greg is the Chief Marketing Officer with Infusionsoft, and Greg goes back a long way, not to age you, but goes back a long way in marketing automation, CRM.
Thanks, Charlie. Just to add on what Brian said here, Eloqua yesterday filed for their public offering. So it's a sign that this stuff works, that there are real companies doing big things for companies of all sizes, and it's an exciting time in the tech business. Infusionsoft is a local company. We're based in Gilbert, Arizona. We have over 170 employees. We're a fast-growing tech company. We make sales and marketing automation software for small businesses to help them convert more leads, grow their sales, and save time, which is something you don't hear about when you're talking about tools for large businesses. You can add more staff, you can spend more money. Our customers, which typically have fewer than 25 employees, so it's an entrepreneurial crowd, and those that are growing up here, which of course is a massive part of our economy. How many of you work at companies with fewer than 100 employees? How many of you work at companies with more than 100 employees? Okay, so in the room it's getting near half and half. And of course, the new high technologies have served big businesses are coming to small businesses. So I've been, as Charlie said, I've been in and around sales and marketing software for over 20 years. I got started when salespeople were learning to type and use PCs with a little software product called ACT Software, Contact Management for Salespeople, when that was 10 people. Made it through Symantec. And when there was a crowd of ACT users and people spending millions on high-end enterprise CRM, there was a big gap in the middle of the market. And I ended up helping start the SalesLogix CRM company here with the founder of ACT over 15 years ago. Helped launch that company. We actually bought ACT to Phoenix from Symantec. I ran that business for 5 years, and I've been in and around software. So I'm new to Infusionsoft this year. But it's a very exciting company with a culture that's focused on the entrepreneurs and small businesses that we serve. And when it's really exciting to me to hear about Xerox and GE and their massive businesses and global scale. But we serve a new breed of entrepreneur that is oftentimes coming out of those big companies, starting new businesses, sometimes with online selling, and sometimes with selling with themselves as sales teams. We help them scale their business without adding staff. It's not, part of the American dream these days isn't to have 200 employees. It's to have a great business that's very profitable, where you could spend time with your family, serve your communities, and be in control. And that's what Infusionsoft does.
Okay, thank you. Greg, this first question's for you. There's a lot of confusion between what really is marketing automation. What does it mean, and what's the difference between that and CRM? We've had a lot of customers ask us, I don't understand what this terminology means. And it's not just customers, it's big companies as well. So can you try to define that?
Yeah, marketing automation and CRM are, right now, there are two different parts of the technology stack, if you will, for bigger companies. Actually, Infusionsoft has both sales CRM and marketing automation in one software. Small businesses need an integrated solution that has both. But CRM is the repository, we know, for salespeople to manage their customers, track their deals, and keep track of that information. And it tends to generally be what the sales team uses to manage their pipeline. And it tends to be whatever your salespeople can touch in the software is what happens. Marketing automation is an active set of marketing tools now that the buying process happens online more often. Marketing automation is, it's not just all marketing technologies. It's the term and the category is really coming to mean those tools that can help generate and capture leads, develop leads, and for smaller and B2C companies, help to develop those revenue from customers after the sales cycle. In B2B, we talk about the funnel, and many of our customers are doing great business selling to past the funnel, in the bow tie, if you will, selling to customers. So marketing automation is about making the most of of the funnel and your customers.
Brian, you want to add anything to that?
No, it was a great description. I would like to, Greg mentioned that we did file to go public yesterday, and while the lawyers prevent me from saying anything, I will say something quite humbling. The first text message I got was from my son Max, who congratulated me, and the same text message asked for more allowance. So I was hoping that perhaps some big shot banker would congratulate me or some former girlfriend from high school, but alas, I was tapped for some more money from my son. It was, so maybe you too will go public and your child will ask for money.
Okay. Next question I have is about marketing and sales alignment. This is something that has been going on for years and years and years. It's the salespeople saying the marketing people aren't giving me great leads. The marketing people are saying the salespeople aren't following up on the leads. How does marketing automation, oh, by the way, and also the mention earlier that I think Laura brought up was that 60% of the sales are already done now because of digital marketing, the pre-commerce cycle. How does the whole sales automation thing help that process?
So I'm just curious about this audience, whether in your own companies, whether there's a challenge of alignment between sales and marketing. So do people have challenges with the alignment? Yeah, I think alignment's probably a kind word. There's often confrontation and there's fighting in the halls. And so it can be quite bad. And so I used to believe that it was cultural, that sometimes marketers are more longer term thinking and then salespeople want to close that quarter. But I've realized it's a combination of culture, but more communication and some technologies. So the classic, of course, is what I mentioned before, that the sales team is inundated with leads that they don't call leads. They say, these aren't leads, these are names from a phone book, they're junk. And why would I call any of these people? They're not going to close. And that's sort of a classic response. Get out of my way, marketing. Don't mess up my deals. And then the marketing people say, I'm working my butt off to generate really high quality leads, and the sales team isn't doing any with them. What's wrong with them? You know, and so that's sort of the classic.
Pick up the phone, is what marketers say to sales.
So here's what we generally see. So we work with a lot of very large companies around the world. So it's Adobe and American Express and Wells Fargo and BMC and a whole bunch of really cool companies. And these large, sophisticated companies have the identical problem. It's a mess. So what has to happen is marketing and sales has to have a common definition of what is a lead. It would seem like a very simple question. It's enormously difficult. If you ask people in sales, what's a sales-ready lead, you'll get a different answer from every salesperson. Same thing with marketing. So you have to sit down and agree on what is a sales-ready lead. And then marketing and sales have to shake hands and say, I will only deliver to sales sales-ready leads. And there are a couple of ways to define a sales-ready lead. And generally in scoring, there's sort of two areas of what is an ideal customer profile or what's the ideal lead. Who you are and what you do. So this is about how you score. So the who you are is what company. So you're looking for big companies, small companies, what industries, what revenues, what challenges, what issues. So that's all the demographics of who you are. And the second is what you do. So maybe a sales-ready lead is someone who's been to the website, your company website, 4 times in the last week. Maybe it's someone who downloaded 2 videos and forwarded them to colleagues. Maybe it's someone you met at a trade show, and then a week later they read a white paper, and then a week later they attended a webinar. So marketing sales has to agree on what a sales-ready lead is, and that's the start of the process. And then there's a whole bunch of sort of back office systems that have to work to pass those leads. So the marketing team is nurturing leads with content. We talked about that in the last group, last team about you want to nurture them with content and score them all along, and then reach a threshold score. Let's say it's 100 points, bing, they are ready to be passed on to the sales team, and only then. Now the first thing that's going to happen is the sales team will complain. They will say we're getting fewer leads. And in fact, the lead flow will drop by at least in half, maybe by 2/3. And it's like that old Woody Allen joke. He goes to a restaurant and says, the food was bad and the portions were small. So the sales team, even though they got crappy leads, they want just as many of them. It's ridiculous. So you have to set expectations. You can get fewer leads, but the quality is going to be much higher. And then you're going to see the quality is much higher. So those quality leads will show up in their CRM, whether it's Salesforce.com or Microsoft Dynamics or any number of CRMs, and the sales team will get those leads and all those leads. And then you can put process in place to make sure that they follow up. So how quickly should you follow up on a sales-ready lead? Thoughts? Immediately. So these things perish very, very quickly, and they get ugly, and so you want to get someone almost immediately. The statistics show that if you can get someone within 30 minutes, you have a much higher chance of actually reaching them. If you want to wait 24 hours, that's okay, but you certainly have to agree with sales how quickly will you follow up on the leads. So that's the way to start moving towards better marketing and sales alignment.
Okay. Greg, do you want to add anything to that?
We had a laugh. We were talking about sales and marketing alignment, which is something we continually talk about within our own company, but many of our customers, sales and marketing is done by the same person. And sometimes that's the owner of the business, so they have to have an agreement with themselves about it. But sales and marketing alignment is going to be there regardless of how much technology and how qualified the lead is. It's just moving the discussion over to a different line and so forth. One of the differences in this discussion compared to imagine 20 years ago, marketing was all about branding and sales was all about the shoebox full of cards and making calling on the phone. They've come together a lot closer, but there is better data about what's happening in the funnel: qualification, behavior, engagement, lead source analysis, conversion of all the lead sources. It's a different discussion than it used to be. There's a lot more data in it. So that data can help drive the business strategy. I think it also helps drive this discussion. It's more proof as opposed to the deal between the marketing and sales leaders.
Let me give an example of that if I could, because it's a great point. So most marketers, they go to a trade show, they spend, I don't know, $50,000. They have a goldfish bowl, they get a lot of leads, and the CEO says, "How was the trade show?" And most marketers say, "Wow, it was great. Look at all the leads we got, and it was exciting, and the booth was overflowing. It was just great." That's what most marketers do. Now, left-brain marketers don't do that. They would say, "I don't know how it did. It'll take a couple of months for us to see which deals close." Or they could say, "Last year, we generated 800 inquiries of 200 leads, and we had 5 deals that closed, and it was $800,000 of revenue. It cost us $50,000 to the trade show. We generated $800,000 of revenue. That's a pretty good return." So imagine having a conversation with the CFO. You can either bring in the goldfish bowl with all the business cards, or you can say, "We spent $50,000 and we generated $800,000. So when you want to get funded next year, you need those arguments." And so that's what new software can do. It's the science of marketing.
I'd like to open it up now to questions from the audience. Like I said earlier, if you could wait until the microphone's near you before you start speaking, I'd appreciate it. So questions? Come on, don't be shy. All right, if you don't have one, I'll have another one. So I'll do another one, and then I'd like to see some hands go up, okay? Or I'm going to do what Sheila did and get it out of you somehow, right, Sheila? This whole change into marketing automation, it's called automation for a reason. It's technical. There's a lot of technical aspects of it. Does this mean that the marketing people that are running your organizations today or your marketing organizations today need to have a different kind of background than they did in the past?
Marketing is still about engagement and communication. So that's what it's always going to be about. It's about having a dialogue and understanding a person's needs and responding very effectively. That's what marketers do. Probably on marketing teams now, you need someone who has more of an engineering mindset. So a lot of marketers, use email service providers like a Responses or ExactTarget to blast emails. I think the next generation of marketers is much more thoughtful about automating messages. So when I say automating, it doesn't mean setting a timer and every other Wednesday an email goes out. That is not automating. So you want to have a conversation. So imagine meeting someone here and someone says, "Hello," and you say, "Read my white paper." And then you meet them again and they say, "Oh, hi again," and you say, "Have you read my white paper? And here's a video to look at." And so it's about having a conversation. So the first touch may be, what are your interests? And, or maybe you see that they've come to your website and they've looked at certain things. So now you know what they've looked at. Now you can personalize a message. Now by personalize, I mean the computers personalize it. So if I know that you went to our website and you watched a video, maybe the next thing I send you is a video. Maybe your preferred way of communicating is not through a white paper or words or a blog post or a webinar, but it's through video. If you expressed an interest in email marketing, maybe I send you something about what you're interested in, email marketing. And so what marketing automation does is it scales. It does what a great salesperson would do if they only had 5 or 10 prospects. That is, think hard about what those people want, read their digital body language. So every time they go to your website, every time they do something, you're tracking everything they do. So when the time comes to send them a message, you know what they're interested in. Maybe you know that they're in the healthcare industry, so you send them something about marketing in healthcare. Maybe you know that they read the last white paper about this topic, send them something about the topic. So it's about automating messages based on who they are, what they do, and what their interests are. So the question's a great one. I think a lot of people feel that the pendulum has swung so fast from right brain to left brain that we're all going to be propeller heads, and you need engineers. You still need great communicators in marketing, and you need people who can understand how to engage, but you also need people in the team who can operationalize that communication.
The marketing job has clearly gotten a lot harder, not just because of technology, but the explosion in the tactics to reach people. Whether you're a politician, an entrepreneur, a marketing leader at a large company, the number of ways we reach and engage and converse with our customers has expanded. And many of those are very technical. So we do see in the marketing industry, in our company, the companies I've worked with here in Phoenix, our customers, that there are some marketers who are more technical, but less conversant in telling the story, and there are the traditional marketers that are the storytellers and less technical. And that's one of the general challenges that marketers had. Add to that, marketing leaders have better data, an explosion of data to sort through, and analytics that wasn't really there years ago. I know that 30% of the prospects last month from advertising came from advertising that was done more than 1 year ago. And I can track it back to each one. There's a lot of analytics, there's a lot of data. It's not just wading through that data, but that gives marketers the ability to inform the business strategy, and that's just a different business decision. So we got to be better storytellers, we got to deal with the profusion of tactics, and be able to use that data to move the business that marketers weren't really in that conversation as much before.
You know, I think it's a really exciting time to be a marketer.
Yes, that's right.
And sometimes in the midst of change, a lot of people focus on what they're going to lose, not what they're going to gain. And so there's sometimes fear of new technologies. It's a fear that I'm getting old and, you know, I'm much better at collateral, and I don't know what a QR code is, and I don't really tweet, and I don't know what it is, and that sort of thing. So I would encourage you to be adventurous and curious and ask questions, plenty of dumb questions. Because a couple years ago, no one knew what a QR code was. You know, Twitter has just been out for less than 2 years. And so there's no substitute for doing and making mistakes. And so this idea of having someone in your team do all the social media or delegating to having a specialist, I think it's part of your job too. I think all of us have to understand new media, and we have to be evangelists within our companies of new media, and you have to educate other people within your companies. So you ought to feel very open about trying new things, making mistakes. You know, mistakes can quickly be changed in the digital world. You know, I think the example was of the typo, you know, in the paper document. That doesn't happen in the digital world. So you try a digital ad that doesn't work, you change it. You do A/B testing on your website because you're not sure what's going to work. You try a contest and it bombs. So what? You move on. And so there's a lot of experimentation going on here. And I think the companies that fail, the companies that are afraid to try new things and experiment, because it's a whole new world. If you're using the same tactics you used and are comfortable with 5 years ago, you're just going to be failing. And so I would encourage you to try new things.
Can I answer that? One of the things that's exciting to me about Infusionsoft and the small business innovators that are leveraging the power of internet to scale small businesses in a different way is the fact that they're nimble and they're not as risk averse as large companies. They're taking risks, they're trying things, they're starting companies. Some of our customers have started their business using Infusionsoft and Scale and had their experiments and are creating additional businesses. And there's a ton of unbelievable innovation happening at the entrepreneurial level in digital marketing because they're able to take the risks, try, move fast, and experiment.
You know, Google doesn't know you're a billion-dollar company. You know, you are who Google says you are. And so there's been a lot of interesting jujitsu where very small, agile companies have done brilliant things with search engine marketing and optimization and blogging to come up very high in search listings, and they get the first click and they get the first attention, and a lot of big companies that are slower to move. And so there really is an advantage. It's been a huge level playing field that's happened over the last few years. And so I think the last panel talked about what would be one of the key lessons, and for me, it's about being easy to be found. So you really want to be able to be found. And it's not as simple as hiring an agency to do your search. You really have to produce great content and compelling content, and then you got to do a million little things right, like make sure all the tagging is right and make sure the frequency's there and you got the keywords going on and everything. It's a lot of work, but I would encourage you to read about it, to learn, but being found really is key. And smaller companies can really jump over big companies very easily in the new world of digital marketing.
Question, yes.
Baby steps to get into automation. Are there any? I'm sorry.
What, could you repeat that? Yeah.
The baby steps to get into automation. If your company is risk adverse, large or small.
Yeah, it's a great question. So believe it or not, one of the biggest issues is sometimes you have overly ambitious marketers who want to do too much too quickly. And we would encourage companies to sort of crawl and then walk and then run. And so we wouldn't, at least if you're a mid-sized to larger company, we would say that if you don't have a CRM right now, you probably don't want to put marketing automation on top of that. So you probably want to have a CRM, so you want a sales team that is using the CRM every day, and there's a discipline of calling people, and then after you call someone, you put that record in, and you move things along as CRM. That's sort of basic hygiene. And if your sales force is doing that with some degree, you may think about marketing automation. And then you may just want to Google marketing automation and talk to a couple companies. You got a great company right here to talk to, right in Arizona. And so you may want to talk to a couple companies and talk about it. But I'll tell you, the statistic about 60 or 70% of the buying process happens before you talk to a sales rep. So there's so much information out now from the analyst firms and from publications about marketing automation. You really ought to read and learn about it. But I would also take a lesson from social media and ask your friends, ask your peers. I don't think there's one deal that we closed in the last year where the customer didn't ask their friends and peers. It's not just reference checking. They're just putting in a LinkedIn group, hey, who should I buy for marketing automation? How do I get started? And I'll encourage you to ask other marketing organizations how they've done it.
We sell to entrepreneurs and marketers and small business, and there are 28 million small businesses in the United States, so there's a huge span of them. Many of them are quite small, there's less than 5 million that actually spend money on marketing and are ambitious and grow. So we talk to a wide span of prospective customers. And we do a lot of education. There's a lot of great material at our website. But you have to know there's a certain maturity level in a business that has to be ready for somewhat advanced technology. So we make sure that our prospective customers have some experience with CRM, with email marketing. If you're not communicating regularly with email and haven't started that phase with your customers and prospects, it's probably not worth jumping over that to automate and personalize it at other level. So dealing with small businesses, there's all levels of sophistication, and we talk to companies and advise them that you're not ready for Infusionsoft. Just use simple email marketing and get started right now. The larger the company is, the more revenue, the more leads in your list, the more transactions you do, the more that automation can help. So smaller, very high-touch, relationship-based businesses are not as opportune for the automation of the follow-up and communication as others in some sense.
Another question over here?
Talking about sales and marketing alignment. I guess talk about like the challenges or best practices of having a sales team adopt the marketing automation tool, and at what points they should be involved with perhaps the selection and implementation of it.
I would say definitely yes. So the irony is that when you buy marketing automation, who's the true beneficiary? It's a sales team. And so you want them bought in, and you want them to know that you care about their success, you care about them hitting their quota, and that you want to make this investment to help them. So this is not about marketing, doing stuff for marketing. It's about marketing doing stuff to grow revenue and make the sales team more successful. So you definitely want to get them involved in the process. The question mark is whether you get IT involved in the process or the CFO or other people. But I would definitely get sales involved in the process. A lot of solutions these days, are in the cloud, so you don't necessarily need a lot of integration with the IT team and everything. At big enterprises, we just closed a big deal at Dell, so we're running all of Dell's marketing right now, and we had probably 50 people in the buying committee, including like 8 people from IT, a bunch of accounting people, the purchasing department, the legal department. It was a lot of stuff to get through. But you don't want to get it in and not have buy-in ahead of time, so I definitely go to the sales team. And a lot of organizations, with all due respect, the sales team sometimes a little more juice than the marketing team. So if you can get your head of sales really excited about marketing automation, that could be a really champion to help sell it in.
And one of the things to take into account with marketing automation is that it's not just delivering the better lead with better information and all the background to sales to go at it, giving dog food to the dogs to go hunt. The marketing automation exists in that communication cycle during the sales process with salespeople. So there are a lot of messages, follow-ups, engagement points that can be delegated to marketing automation in the sales process alongside the salesperson. And so they have to be comfortable with that and know where it exists, right? Because they're controlling the process, so they have to know exactly what's happening with their customers.
Sean, I think you have a question back there, right? Do you?
Yeah, can I ask about the mic?
Okay.
All right. Greg, I'm sorry, was it Brian? Brian, did I hear you imply that you would potentially, in a large corporate environment, implement marketing automation without the involvement of IT?
It's a leading question, Counselor. So, this is not enterprise software that runs on the machines of companies. However, in large enterprises, you have all sorts of security, deliverability issues. They connect with other systems that the company's running. And so in all cases, for large enterprises, we get IT involved. You certainly need their blessing, and chances are there are probably some specific things that they know that will help the implementation go a lot better and faster. The other thing is you probably want the IT team part of the deployment of the implementation team as well, so they're there to make sure everything works really well. So the difference is that most of this marketing software now is in the cloud, but that's a moot point. And so certainly for mid-sized and large companies, you do want to get the IT team involved. I'm curious.
You said they might make the implementation go better. You haven't seen our IT department.
Oh, boy.
Why'd you ask that question? Well, I'm curious. Why'd you ask that?
I'm not going to say the name of my company.
Okay.
Would you like me to do it for you, Sean? I can tell him that. Steve. Steve,
Okay,
hey,
so I got
I'll
a
get back
question
there, I'm
for you
sorry.
back here. So it seems like I just got used to automating marketing campaigns and, putting everything into the CRM system and tracking the campaigns and following it all the way through to revenue. And then all of a sudden, it seems like everybody in my company's become marketing. We're doing that through their LinkedIn pages and social, networks of various types and Facebook. Can you talk about where you see marketing automation going in that area to kind of help us with making it turn into revenue in the right way?
Specifically about social media, how it plays into marketing automation? Yeah. So social media is very interesting because people right now are saying things in social media about your companies that are probably pretty important. So if someone tweets that, hey, I'm right now in a buying cycle for this category, you'd like to know that. And so at leading edge companies, there's a team of people who look at those and they route those leads immediately to the right salesperson. We do that at our company. So someone says I'm in a buying cycle, or they say, hey, so let's say they're with one of our competitors, but they're having a problem. We'd immediately go into their profile. We find out where they're located. We pass that lead over to, we consider it a lead. We pass it over to the salesperson, and they immediately respond. And so the other thing that happens is very important is something called social sign-on. So does anybody here at the website have forms that prospects or clients can fill out on your website? Do you have forms, name, address, email, that sort of stuff? So the very interesting challenge with forms is most people that hit a form abandon the form. So at least 90% of people, even though they want what the form will give them, abandon the form. I don't know how threatening a form can be, but apparently it's threatening to 90% of the world. So what has moved now is something called social sign-on. So you offer people the chance that if you don't want to give us your name and your email and your company name and your revenues and your country and all these things, all you have to do is click the T or the F or the LinkedIn logo and give us permission, and we'll go into your social handle and we'll pull that information and you can log in that way. It's a lot easier and simpler. And so increasingly, people are doing that. And so we're seeing much higher conversion rates on forums. So companies that are doing social sign-on, instead of having a 6% conversion, are having about an 18% conversion. That is huge. So it's like 3x. Now, what the innocent person doing social sign-on does not know is that we are sucking everything out of their social profile. They think it's very innocent and easy. What they don't know is that we've gotten everything. We've got their friends, we've got every tweet they've done, and so a lot of things are coming with that. So, but it's very interesting. So that's a big part of it. Another challenge with social is how do you tie a social identity with an email address? Most people look at your email address as your single source of identity. And so if you have an @bcarden, which is my Twitter, how do you match it up with your email address? And there are a lot of systems that do that now. And so you can do some matching. There's a company called Flowtown. There are other services that do that. And so the last point about social is that just because you have someone's social identity does not mean that you have permission to speak to them in that social medium. And so I think a lot of marketers are mistaken that if they give their Twitter handle and suddenly you get some message from some marketer, some advertiser, it's just inappropriate. So you have to earn the right. However, if you can move that identity @bcarden to your email, you would have permission to email them, and it's a lot less intrusive. Eventually, you can earn the right, through Twitter, or through LinkedIn. Maybe invite them to join a group, or if you meet them, or maybe later on, the next time they come to your website with progressive profiling, say, "Hey, thanks for your Twitter handle. Could we also have your email address?" And so you can start communicating that way. But social is really quite different right now, and I think a lot of marketers have jumped over too quickly to communicating, and for a lot of people in social media, it's still that, social, and it's not yet business.
Nope.
So I'll ask another video question of the second panel. Tech Council just recently started using automated video marketing, and I think CK made the point that people would much rather watch a video or listen to audio than read a couple paragraphs of text. So just wanted to get your experiences with using automated video marketing and whether or not you think that's sort of the new direction in marketing.
We use a lot of video in our educational materials in communicating. We have a lot of automated communications, and it's all personalized based on their opt-in behavior, and their demographics, and what they're really looking for to start that conversation. So we add video into as many things as we can add right now for our own company. For our smaller customers, they're struggling to log into Twitter before 11 o'clock at night. Actually write the content of basic emails to do specialized communications. And smaller companies are struggling to get into video. And it requires some sophistication in your messaging and capability to deliver that kind of content. So our most sophisticated customers, these are less than 10-person companies that have hundreds of thousands of people on a mailing list and are scaling really fast. Use video in almost everything they do.
I love video, and for a lot of different reasons. The first is the barriers to doing video have dropped so much. So when Al Mag and I used to do video at Connors Publishing, we'd hire a film crew and be makeup and lights, and maybe $20,000 later or $100,000 later. Who's been in that mode at some point in their life where you hired a production crew, you shoot a lot of video, you do that? So you can get an equivalent video from, a kid out of film school Or I recently asked my kids what I should do for this commercial I was doing. They said, why don't you ask our video teacher at school, Mr. Garland. So we actually had Mr. Garland shoot the video. He could only do it during the summer break. And he got one of his recent video students, and it was an unbelievable production. And you can get Final Cut Pro really cheap. And so the barriers have shrunk. So a couple things. You too can be a videographer. So I'll give you a great lesson. We hired, I think the smartest hire I've made in the last year is we hired a corporate reporter. Talk about content. We hired a journalist. So journalists have a hard time today. There's not as many newspapers. There are a lot of really high-quality people who write really well and know how to research a story, and there's just not enough jobs for them. So you can hire them to write content and teach them how to do video. So we have Jesse, our corporate reporter. He's going all around the country. So he'll go to an event, and in one day, he'll write 3 blog posts, and he'll shoot 8 videos. He is prolific beyond belief, 2,000 words a day. Now, I asked someone on my marketing team, could you do a blog post 300 words? Maybe they come back to me a month later saying, could I have another month? It's unbelievable. Does anybody relate to this? So these are marketers, and some people are natural writers. A reporter is someone who does it beautifully. So you may want to freelance it out or something. The other thing a reporter has is they can approach a subject with a freshness and not a bias. And a big part of content is objectivity. And so a journalist is just brilliant, and to teach that person to do video, so it's just great. Now, I think the question is also really about attention spans declining. If our attention spans, if 140 characters is too much, how about a video? And so we've looked at studies of video fall off, and so having a very short video really matters. I think a lot of people think that it's probably 2.5 minutes, kind of like an MTV music video. That's still too long. You probably get your message out probably 90 seconds, so 60, 90 seconds. The other kind of video that doesn't work at all is the, quote, corporate video. This is the sincere-looking CEO, in front of the office, trying to look casual, and it's been done a million times, and you put that stupid music track in there that looks like it's a hip, cool digital company, and it just plays so flat. It could be it's like a Saturday Night Live sketch, And you get some, big corporate guy, and he's kind of goofy, and his eyes are all over the place, but you got, hey, boss, you look great in the video, so you're making him sound really good. So you don't want to do that. You really want to have cinema verite, and you want to capture people in real places, real environments. You do it fast. The other thing is, for blog posts and video, make it frictionless. Not a whole lot of editing. Just get it up there and move on. So we found that a lot of organizations really agonize about editing and another round and go back and forth. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It's good enough. Move on. If you catch something that isn't perfect, you can always fix it later. So I would encourage you to capture the video, do the blog post, get the stuff done, and just move on and do the next one.
We're hiring a content journalist at Infusionsoft, one of 4 open marketing positions, one of 15 open positions. It's a little plug for career opportunities.
Right. Any other
See
questions?
our website.
I have a question. So we've got bits and pieces of everything running very fast on all these tracks, right? Could both of you guys just speak for a minute about, look at the world 5 years ahead for B2B marketing and sales, and say, if you take all those bits and pieces of everything advancing, what's it look like to both of you in 5 years?
Well, one of the things that we're dealing with is for smaller businesses who, some are more technically innovative, but generally speaking, they don't have the resources and they're not as marketing savvy as large companies to do new things. But they're in the digital world, but they're moving online so fast. Small businesses are moving into the digital world. They're forced to do it. In 5 years, you won't have the yellow page dropped on your driveway anymore, so you could throw it out. It'll be gone. Most of our clients don't print anything anymore. So, which means the digital experience of buying and engaging is going to be much richer. So I see a lot more of that information coming into the sales and marketing experience. We're just starting to tap into all that information, including social as well. So, which means that flood of data is going to create a whole new analytics and interpretation problem. We'll make it easy for our small business users, but the explosion will continue.
So it's a great question. So I think in 5 years, the marketer's office will look like a trading room floor.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be about real-time decision-making. So right now, I have a lot of screens open at the same time. So I have TweetDeck open, so I'm getting real-time what people are saying about a new product launch or IPO or stuff. I've got my Google Analytics that are open. I got my Omniture that's open. I've got my Eloqua instance that's open. I got Salesforce that's open. So I have all these screens going on right now, and maybe I'm the exception because I'm really a digital marketer. But I can see in real time everything that's going on. I can see a deal that just closed 30 seconds ago. I can see something that moved from being a marketing qualified lead to a sales qualified opportunity. I can see the pipeline growing and shrinking. I can see the size of the database. I can see that the last campaign had 20% unsubscribes. What the hell happened there? You know, and so it's sort of real time, everything that's going on. And so I'm starting to see my own environment go like that, where it's real time decision making, where you see everything that's going on at one time. And it's the antithesis of what most of us do now. And that is, we put stuff in Excel, and then we put it in a PowerPoint, and then maybe once a month or once a quarter, we present it to our boss and to the CEO or the board of directors or something. So when you do it in PowerPoint and Excel, you have no credibility, because it's not real time, and no one can find where the hell you got the data from. It just exists in those pieces of paper. And so that's why I sort of love this real time. And you think about what a trader does and what they have, it's all real-time information everywhere. They can see what's going on in Tokyo, they can see what's going on in foreign exchange, they can see what's happening in gold and commodities, you can see what's happening in individual equities and bond prices, and I see that happening for marketers too, real-time decision making. And sometimes the marketer will be making a decision, but sometimes you can automate the marketing too. Just like hedge funds, they can automate trades. So based on certain movements, you set up certain rules and things happen automatically. For example, if you ran a campaign against a certain segment and you had a great response, then you would automatically redo that campaign. Or you're about to launch a campaign against a certain group, but you have a rule that says don't hit them with an email, you know, every 30 days, whatever the rule is. So you set up all these rules, just like a hedge fund would, and then things are automatically happening based on what you know and what has been automated. So I see a lot of rules, real-time decision-making, and automation happening in kind of like a trading room floor.
Okay, we have time for one more question, so maybe two.
Do either of you have any horror stories? You know, we've talked about the good side of this. Are there any automated marketing campaigns you can think about where there were some problems because it was automated, or could you talk about the perils, even if you don't have case studies?
Infusionsoft has 7,000 customers now, but we've sold more people than continue to use it, you know, in the past. Some people are not with us, and those that bought Infusionsoft and didn't get to the benefit quickly were those that didn't have a strategy somewhat explicit and didn't identify the holes in their funnel and in their sales pipeline that they wanted to solve. They jumped over it and said, it's technology, let's get going and let's start doing stuff. And we're very deliberate now in working with our customers. We onboard with services every single customers. We're doing 300 to 400 marketing automation plans, working with our customers every single month to take them through that process. And I don't know if that's a horror story, but we know what kind of investment and dream our customers have of making the best use of it. And we have a huge success rate with it now because of that. So it's a general recommendation. Map it out, be strategic, and focus on the key things that are going to make a difference. It could be driving more traffic into the funnel. It could be converting more leads. It could be getting more business out of your existing customers, and be more specific about that.
Yeah, we've had some disasters. So I'll name one. So a very sophisticated, large, billion-dollar-plus company bought a whole bunch of names. They bought 500,000 names, and they pushed them all out within 8 hours. So does anybody know what happens when you push out 500,000 names in 8 hours? What happens? Uh-huh. Yeah, so your sender score goes down. So deliverability plummeted. So there's this issue of deliverability. So just so you know, every email you send doesn't necessarily is received. And so it all has to do with your credibility as a marketer. So if you're buying junk, and this was a very sophisticated marketer, so I thought, and you know, they did this. And part of it was they had the power of a Ferrari. They had all this, hey, let's send it out, you know. So they didn't do some basic common marketing sense. That is, you want to test the list first, see how it does. You also have different IP addresses, and you send them out on different things. There's a lot of things you want to warm up an IP address. There's a lot of sort of sophisticated things big email marketers do, and these guys sort of made a classic mistake of pushing, because they could, they pushed out 500,000 in 8 hours, and it was just terrible. The other thing you see occasionally is sort of the classic dear first name. So instead of saying dear Bill, it's dear first name. You got to laugh at that. It happens all the time. So, you know, everybody in marketing has been through this. Everybody has edited it, and it's hiding in plain sight, isn't it? Everyone's seen that, and so mistakes happen. And so I don't attribute them necessarily to automation or technology. It's like human error. It happens. What happened in print, it happens in email, the landing page, and just that sort of thing happen. But just because you have the power doesn't mean you want to use it all at one time, and you have to apply common sense.
You had one question right here. Why don't you get a chance?
Actually, believe it or not, was very similar to that, but I do want to go a step further and ask junk things. I mean, you know, you're talking about this marketing room being like a stock market. There's all this stuff going out all over the planet. I mean, what are the ramifications of that?
So it's interesting. A friend of mine, Josh Burnoff from Forrester, recently analyzed his inbox, and 80% of his emails were not from a human being. 80% were sent automatically from some marketer or some machine. And so what happens now? And so you're really turned off. So people are just upping their spam filters, their pastinis and others, and they're filtering it out. So great marketing is not email marketing, and don't confuse the two. And so there's still reason for great live events, great webinars, great face-to-face, great video. You ought to be doing things on YouTube and Vimeo. You ought to be doing things in SlideShare. There are lots of other places to put your content besides emailing and communicating to people. You know, I had a very sophisticated client say, well, you know, that person unsubscribed. I guess we can never talk to them again. They said, they unsubscribed my email. I can never talk to them again. I said, pick up the phone and call them. You can call them on the phone. What a crazy idea. But there's this idea, they've unsubscribed my email, and they just never do that. And so I just want to make sure that marketers don't think that our only channel is email, because response rates are going down, and it's getting very messy, and there's a lot of junk, and there's a lot of phishing going on, too, with a PH from other countries. So people are very cautious about hitting links. And that's why making sure that what you send is very credible and is well written and well conceived, and you don't send out hundreds of thousands in the same period really matter. But think of yourselves, like the last panel was talking about multi-channel, and not just email marketing, but every aspect of your marketing. And I think there'll be almost like a portfolio, you know, like an investment trader. You just want to make sure that you have a portfolio of doing everything. You don't have all your eggs in email. There's also all sorts of privacy issues and legal things that could happen. And so if all you're doing is emailing, and that's the only expertise you have, that window could be shut down. It's being shut down in certain countries of Europe, very tight legislation, and there's likely to be more privacy coming to the US.
That actually raises the bar for email communication that automation can help solve. We have 20,000 people a month opt in, meaning give us their name, their email address, and say, yes, I'd like to continue the conversation. We require opt-in and single or double opt-in permission for emails. You cannot buy a list and send it out. We have a 99% deliverability rate. We don't let people just blast stuff out. Talking about the quality of the email deliverability. But the quality of the conversation depends on how you engage them to come into the conversation, the data you collect to deliver the right message. The bar is much higher to continue the conversation in any medium right now. So with the leads in our pipeline, we deliver better content all the time to keep the conversation going. And we refine our messaging for our sub-targets based on their behavior, demographics, and psychographics. So it's a challenge to continue raising the bar. It is an arms race, right, in marketing. So the bar is going to continue to get higher.
One of the ironies is that we tried a very new technology called direct mail recently. And what we found is that no one's sending direct mail. And direct mail, I realized that I was actually looking at my mail. And I don't look at my email, but I actually get the 4 pieces I get a week, I actually look at. And so we decided to do a direct mail campaign. It was kind of crazy, but it was incredibly effective. So we had a personalized URL on that, and then we could actually track how many of the people actually opened it and went to the personalized URL and went to the landing page. So, you know, everything old is new again, and so we found that direct mail was quite effective for this particular audience that was not responding to emails.
Is that the what goes around comes around theory?
Yeah, I think it is. You know, it's just everything moving to social or something else. I was just shocked that, you know, my team recommended direct mail, and it's a bunch of 20 and 30-somethings who had never done direct mail in their life, and it was all about direct mail.
So unfortunately, we have run out of time. I have a whole bunch of other questions I wanted to ask, but we're out of time right now. We're going to go ahead and take a 15-minute break, but I want to give a round of applause to the panel. Thank you. So we'll be back here in 15 minutes. And for our next speaker, our keynote speaker, Mr. John Kennedy from IBM.